The challenge. Ambassador Sarah Chen smoothed her formal jacket as she sat in the crystalline chamber of the Galactic Defense Council. The transparent walls revealed swirling nebulae beyond, a not-so-subtle reminder of the Council's vast influence. Above her loomed General Vexthor of the Centaurian Empire, his iridescent scales rippling with barely contained disdain. "You cannot be serious," Vexthor drawled, secondary breathing chambers inflating. "These humans want to join our defensive alliance. The same species that still uses combustion engines to escape their gravity well." Around the chamber, representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations tittered behind various appendages. Sarah maintained her composure, only the slight upturn at the corner of her mouth betraying her thoughts. She'd seen that same dismissive attitude in countless negotiation rooms on Earth. It usually preceded someone's very expensive education in underestimating humans. High Admiral Cracks, their scales so dark they seemed to absorb light, let out a sound like metallic wind chimes being strangled. "Your species hasn't even mastered quantum field manipulation for personal transportation. You still use wheeled vehicles, for void's sake." "And yet," Sarah replied, casually examining her datapad, "we managed to detect your stealth ships during their last reconnaissance mission. The ones you thought were completely undetectable. We have footage of our children waving at them from their playgrounds." The chamber fell silent. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Vexthor's scales flickered in irritation, their iridescent sheen turning a mottled purple. "A lucky coincidence," he snarled. "Your primitive radar systems must have randomly detected some anomaly." Sarah's smile widened imperceptibly. "We used our primitive systems to calculate their exact trajectories and predict their observation patterns. I believe we sent your crew some local snacks as a welcoming gift." The commander particularly enjoyed the Twinkies. More uncomfortable shifting. Someone in the back actually chuckled before quickly disguising it as a respiratory malfunction. "This is preposterous." Vexthor's gravity dampeners whined as he stood abruptly. "You expect us to believe that a species that can barely lift itself off its own world deserves a place among the galaxy's elite defenders? Your kind can hardly function in low gravity without getting sick." "Perhaps we could arrange a demonstration," Sarah suggested, though her tone indicated this was exactly where she'd been steering the conversation. "A test of sorts." High Admiral Cracks seized the opportunity. "Yes. Let's see your species prove its worth through action rather than words. Something that demonstrates real power." "What did you have in mind?" Sarah asked, though her expression suggested she'd anticipated this exact moment. Vexthor's scales rippled with smug satisfaction. "Since you're so proud of your ability to function under your world's oppressive gravity, let's make it relevant. You claim to have mastered your environment. Prove it. Move a mountain." He expected shock, protest, or at least hesitation. Instead, Sarah's smile bloomed into something that would have sent wiser beings running for the nearest escape pod. "Move a mountain," she repeated, tapping something into her datapad. "Would you like us to put it back afterward, or would you prefer we use it to build something useful?" For the first time since the meeting began, Vexthor felt a tiny flicker of doubt in his primary stomach. He squashed it immediately. 1 week, he declared. "You have 1 week to demonstrate this capability, or Earth's application to the Council will be rejected for the next standard century." Sarah stood, gathering her materials. "General, you underestimate human efficiency. We'll be ready in 3 days. I suggest you prepare your observation team, and perhaps bring some of those gravity dampeners. You might find them necessary." As she walked out of the chamber, the assembly hummed with nervous energy. Council members watched in silence until the doors closed behind her. "She's bluffing," Cracks muttered, but their scales had taken on the pale hue of uncertainty. "Of course she is," Vexthor replied, trying to convince himself. "After all, it's just a primitive gravity-bound species. What's the worst they could do?" Somewhere in the distance, he could have sworn he heard laughter. Back on Earth, Sarah's quantum communication device activated as soon as she left the chamber. Operation Mountain Mover is a go, she announced. Time to wake up the team. In various locations around the globe, specialized phones began to ring. In a workshop in Mumbai, Dr. Priya Patel looked up from a massive hydraulic system. In a research facility in Buenos Aires, Dr. Marco Santos set down his coffee mug emblazoned with, "I move mountains," literally. And in a hidden facility beneath Mount Kangchenjunga, Colonel Elena Volkov smiled as she powered up the experimental exosuit that would soon redefine possible. The mountain was waiting. Humanity was ready. And in 3 days, the galaxy would learn why you should never dare humans to do the impossible. It just makes them want to do it faster. The preparation. The Himalayan base camp buzzed with activity as Dr. Priya Patel calibrated the quantum stabilizers. Their hot pink paint gleamed in the morning sun, a deliberate choice that made the alien observers visibly uncomfortable. She smiled, remembering the team meeting where they'd chosen the color scheme. "Make it pink," Colonel Volkov had declared, her eyes twinkling. Hot pink. If they're expecting primitive technology, let's really confuse them. Now, 3 years of secret development were about to pay off. The Mountain Mover project hadn't started as a response to alien challenges, it had begun as a solution to humanitarian crises. Earthquakes, landslides, volcanic threats, sometimes saving lives meant literally moving mountains. Primary field generators online, Priya announced, watching the holographic displays shimmer in the crisp mountain air. Quantum mesh is stable and, did someone reprogram the status alerts to play the Pink Panther theme? Dr. Marco Santos grinned from his workstation. Guilty. Thought we might as well commit to the aesthetic. The alien observation ships descended through the morning mist like chrome teardrops, their gravity dampeners humming anxiously. General Vexthor emerged in what appeared to be a full environmental suit, his scales barely visible through the protective layers. "Your atmosphere is surprisingly hostile," he complained, secondary breathing chambers wheezing slightly. "Oh, that's not the atmosphere," Ambassador Chen replied cheerfully. "That's just the altitude. We're at about 8,586 meters. Most humans would need oxygen support up here too. Then how are your technicians operating so efficiently?" High Admiral Krax demanded, watching the human team move about with practiced ease. 3 years of high-altitude training, Colonel Volkov answered, approaching in her experimental exosuit. Unlike the sleek alien vessels, the suit was deliberately industrial, all exposed hydraulics and reinforced joints. Plus plenty of coffee. The aliens had actually laughed when they first saw the suit. One called it, charmingly prehistoric. Their laughter died when Volkov casually lifted a 2-ton calibration weight with one hand while sipping coffee with the other. "The quantum field readings are impossible," Krax muttered, studying alien scanning devices. "According to this, you're channeling enough energy to power a small city." "Oh, that's not the suit," Priya called out. "That's just our coffee maker. We take caffeine seriously up here." The real work was happening beneath their feet. For 3 years, teams had been honeycombing the mountain's interior with a network of quantum stabilizers and structural integrity fields. Each device was a marvel of human engineering, a fusion of traditional physics and bleeding-edge technology. "Beginning final system checks," Marco announced. "Quantum mesh at 100%. Structural integrity fields holding steady. Coffee maker still operational, priorities, people." Colonel Volkov flexed in the exosuit, feeling it respond like a second skin. The neural interface hummed, connecting her nervous system directly to the mountain's quantum network. Through it, she could feel every ton of rock and ice, every stress point and potential failure line. "You still haven't explained how you plan to move an entire mountain," Vexthor said, his tone dripping with skepticism. "Where are your gravity nullifiers? Your mass reduction fields?" "That would be cheating," Ambassador Chen replied. "We're not going to reduce the mountain's mass or nullify gravity. We're going to move it exactly as it is. All 8,586 meters of it. Impossible. The energy requirements alone are quite reasonable when you understand how to work with natural forces rather than against them, Priya interrupted. Your civilization mastered space travel by learning to ignore planetary gravity. We mastered it by learning to dance with it. The quantum mesh hummed to life, lines of force becoming visible as they intersected throughout the mountain. To the aliens' visible confusion, these lines formed complex patterns that looked suspiciously like Earth artistic motifs. Did you program the quantum fields to form mandalas? Marco asked, noticing the designs. Of course, Priya replied. If we're going to move a mountain, we might as well make it look good. Colonel Volkov took her position, the exosuit interfacing seamlessly with the quantum network. Through it, she could feel the mountain's weight, not as a burden, but as a partner in an intricate dance of mass and energy. All systems go, she reported. Beginning power-up sequence. The aliens retreated to what they considered a safe distance, their instruments trained on the mountain. Their gravity dampeners hummed anxiously, as if sensing the impending violation of what they considered possible. Ambassador Chen smiled, remembering something her grandfather used to say, the difference between the impossible and the possible lies in determination. Humanity had plenty of that. The dance. Colonel Elena Volkov felt the mountain through the quantum mesh, all 8,586 meters of ancient rock and ice becoming an extension of her nervous system. The experimental exosuit hummed, its neural interface translating the mountain's mass into a language her body could understand. Beginning primary sequence, she announced. Quantum field stabilization at 97% and rising. The alien observers huddled behind their scanning equipment, their gravity dampeners whining in protest as the quantum mesh grew stronger. General Vexthor's scales had taken on a distinctly worried hue. This is absurd, he muttered. Their technology is practically prehistoric. They're not even trying to reduce the mountain's mass. Dr. Priya Patel's voice came through the external speakers, dripping with amusement. Why reduce what you can redistribute? Watch and learn, General. This is what happens when you combine physics with poetry. The quantum mesh began to pulse, its patterns shifting like a kaleidoscope. The mountain's mass wasn't being reduced, it was being redistributed through a complex network of quantum channels, each one carefully designed to work with Earth's gravity rather than against it. Think of it like a dance, Ambassador Chen explained to the increasingly agitated aliens. Every particle of the mountain moving in perfect synchronization, guided by the quantum mesh in Colonel Volkov's neural interface. Through the exosuit, Elena could feel the mountain beginning to respond. Millions of tons of rock and ice shifted microscopically, finding new equilibrium points within the quantum network. It wasn't about brute force, it was about finding the rhythm of the mountain itself. Primary resonance achieved, Marco reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Quantum harmonics stabilizing at, wait, is that Beethoven's Fifth playing through the quantum field? The mountain has good taste, Priya replied with a grin. Besides, if we're going to make history, we might as well have a soundtrack. The first visible movement sent the alien observers scrambling for their instruments. A sound like 1,000 thunderclaps rolled across the valley as the mountain's base began to shift, not through conventional force but through a carefully orchestrated quantum dance. Impossible. High Admiral Krax shouted over the noise. The energy requirements alone should be quite reasonable when you understand the principles involved, Priya interrupted. We're not fighting the mountain's mass, we're inviting it to dance. The quantum mesh flared brilliantly, its patterns now clearly visible as a complex tapestry of light and energy. Each line represented a calculated path of movement, guided by Elena's neural interface and the mountain's own natural stress points. Through the exosuit, Elena felt the moment everything aligned. The mountain wasn't just responding to commands, it was participating, its ancient mass finding new expression through the quantum network. Full harmonic resonance achieved, she reported, her voice steady despite the incredible sensations flowing through the neural interface. Beginning primary movement sequence. The mountain rose. Not with the brute force the aliens had expected, but with a grace that defied their understanding of physics. 8,000 meters of rock and ice lifted from its ancient foundation, guided by quantum fields that glowed like aurora borealis in the morning sun. How? General Vexthor's voice trailed off as he watched the impossible unfold. This violates every principle of mass manipulation we know. Perhaps, Ambassador Chen replied with a smile, it's time to update your principles. The mountain hung suspended, held in place by a dance of quantum forces that looked more like art than engineering. The alien observers' instruments were practically screaming, their gravity dampeners working overtime to compensate for fluctuations they'd never been designed to handle. Through it all, Elena maintained her focus, feeling the mountain's weight not as a burden but as a partner in an intricate ballet of mass and energy. Each movement was precisely calculated, each shift in position carefully orchestrated through the quantum mesh. Structural integrity at 100%, Marco reported, his voice filled with professional pride. Not a single pebble out of place. Would you like us to put it back, Priya asked the stunned aliens, or should we demonstrate some of its other capabilities first? The revelation. The mountain hung suspended in the morning air, its massive silhouette casting a shadow that danced across the valley floor. But Colonel Elena Volkov, connected through the neural interface, sensed something the alien observers had missed, a pattern hidden within the mountain's quantum signature. Ambassador, she called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement. I think you should see this. Dr. Priya Patel was already moving, her fingers flying across holographic displays. The quantum mesh's patterns shifted, revealing complex geometrical structures buried deep within the mountain's core. Those aren't natural formations, Marco whispered, enhancing the quantum scans. They're technology. Ancient technology. General Vexthor pushed forward, his environmental suit whirring. Impossible. Our surveys showed no signs of advanced civilization on Earth prior to human emergence. Your surveys were wrong, Ambassador Chen replied, studying the emerging data. Or perhaps they were looking for the wrong things. The quantum mesh had revealed a vast network of chambers and corridors, perfectly preserved within the mountain's heart. Geometric patterns that couldn't have been formed by natural processes pulsed with a faint energy signature, one that resonated perfectly with the human quantum field. The mountain didn't just accept our quantum manipulation, Priya realized. It recognized it. These structures, they're quantum resonators. Someone built them millions of years ago, designed to work with Earth's specific gravitational field. High Admiral Krax's scales had turned an interesting shade of pale green. You mean to tell us that primitive Earth was once home to a civilization that understood quantum mechanics at a level you haven't achieved yet, Elena finished, still connected to the mountain's ancient heart. They didn't fight gravity, they danced with it. Just like we're doing now. Through the neural interface, Elena felt the ancient systems awakening, responding to human technology in ways their builders must have intended. The mountain wasn't just moving, it was remembering. That's why the quantum patterns formed mandalas, Marco exclaimed. We didn't program them that way, the ancient systems were guiding our fields into familiar configurations. Ambassador Chen turned to the stunned alien delegation. Still think we're too primitive for your council, General? Vexthor's scales rippled with complex emotions. But, if such advanced civilization existed on Earth before, what happened to them? Perhaps, Chen suggested, they didn't vanish. Perhaps they evolved. Changed. Became us. The mountain pulsed with ancient power, its quantum resonators singing in harmony with human technology. Elena felt it through the neural interface, not just the mountain's physical mass, but the weight of history it contained. The question isn't whether humans are advanced enough for your council, Chen continued. The question is whether your council is ready to understand what humanity truly is. The legacy. The mountain's ancient quantum resonators pulsed in perfect harmony with human technology, creating patterns that stretched across dimensions. Colonel Elena Volkov, still connected through the neural interface, felt something shifting in the fundamental fabric of spacetime. "Ambassador," she called out, "the resonators, they're not just for moving mountains. They're coordinates." The quantum mesh erupted with new patterns, projecting a stellar map that filled the valley. Stars and galaxies danced in holographic splendor, with lines of force connecting specific points across vast distances. "A navigation network," Priya breathed, her fingers flying across displays. The ancient builders, they weren't just moving mountains. They were moving planets. Stars. Entire solar systems. General Vexthor's environmental suit crackled as he stepped forward. Impossible. Such technology would predate our oldest civilizations by millions of years. "Look at the quantum signatures," Marco insisted, highlighting specific patterns. "They match exactly with what we discovered in deep space anomalies. The ones your council dismissed as natural phenomena." The alien delegation shifted uncomfortably as more data poured in. The mountain's resonators weren't just showing maps, they were revealing a vast network of quantum pathways stretching across the galaxy, hidden in plain sight. "Your species," High Admiral Krax began slowly, "you didn't just discover this technology. You're rediscovering it. Remembering it." Ambassador Chen smiled. "Human mythology is filled with stories of mountains that moved, of lands that rose from the sea, of islands that appeared and disappeared. We thought they were just legends. They were memories," Elena finished, "still connected to the ancient systems. Passed down through countless generations, waiting for us to understand them again." Through the neural interface, she felt the mountain's full potential awakening. The quantum resonators weren't just tools, they were keys, unlocking abilities humanity had possessed long ago. "Your council asked us to move a mountain," Chen addressed the alien delegation. "We did that. But more importantly, we showed you something your advanced civilizations missed, that true advancement isn't about conquering nature. It's about understanding it. Dancing with it." The mountain settled back into its original position, but something had fundamentally changed. The quantum mesh now pulsed with patterns that extended far beyond Earth, connecting to similar networks hidden throughout the galaxy. "We accept your invitation to join the Galactic Defense Council," Chen continued, "not as primitive newcomers seeking protection, but as inheritors of a legacy your civilizations have yet to fully comprehend." General Vexthor's scales had taken on a deep, respectful hue. "The Council will need to reevaluate many of its assumptions. That's what humans do best," Elena said, disconnecting from the neural interface. "We challenge assumptions. We push boundaries. And sometimes, we move mountains to prove a point." As the alien ships departed, their crews still processing what they'd witnessed, the human team began the process of integrating their technology with the ancient systems. The mountain had become more than a proof of concept, it was a doorway to humanity's true potential. "You know what this means," Priya said, studying the stellar maps. "Every mountain on Earth might contain similar systems. We're not just joining the galactic community. We're remembering our place in it," Chen finished. "And this time, we're doing it our way. With coffee, pink quantum stabilizers, and a healthy appreciation for the impossible." High above, the mountain stood unchanged yet transformed, a silent guardian of humanity's past and future, waiting for the next dance. The end.